Welcome and thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. In this show, we cover a broad range of topics that cater to both commercial real estate newcomers and industry leaders alike. I'm your host, Yannis Papadakis, Business Development Manager at Crexi. And today we're thrilled to sit down with Jigar Desai and King Jeremiah of NewGen Advisory. A little bit about our guests. Jigar, or Jay Desai, joined the NewGen advisory team of Arizona in 2017. He is focused throughout the southwestern regions of Texas to California, assisting clients with all their hotel and lodging transactional needs. Before joining the NewGen team, Jay was immersed in the financing and lending world with a large national bank, giving him a unique view into the lending world and providing the connections that allowed his clients to seek out financing even for the most challenging assets. Jigar graduated from the University of Arizona in 2011, attaining a dual degree from Eller College of Management in Finance and Real Estate. Jigar is a member and ambassador for the Asian American Hotel Owners Association and holds certifications for Choice Hotels and Best Western, and owns a few hotels himself. He has been in the hotel industry since the age of 9, working alongside his parents, learning all sides of operations. King Jeremiah brings more than 30 years experience in the hotel business to the NewGen advisory team in Arizona. He has a passion for hospitality, service, and a global perspective based on his work with hoteliers across the United States and more than 80 countries. King began his career in hospitality in his home country of Grenada in the Caribbean. During his years at Berea College in Kentucky, he coupled his studies in business administration and hotel management with practical work experience at the historic Boone Tavern Hotel. After graduating with his master's degree from Eastern Kentucky University, King continued as general manager and sales director for many hotels in Kentucky. Starting in 2000, King joined Best Western Hotels and Resorts, where he held key corporate positions in consulting, branding, training, and quality assurance for over 4,000 hotels. Throughout his career, King has received many industry-leading designations, which include Certified Hotel Administrator, Certified Hospitality Trainer, and certification in Hotel Industry Analytics. He's also actively involved in the hospitality industry as a member of the National Association of Black Hotel Owners, Operators, and Developers, Asian American Hotel Owners Association, and the Latino Hotel Association. Both, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
So,
thanks for having us.
I know we just covered a bit about both of your backgrounds, but I'd love to briefly hear more about your career paths and lesson learned along the way. Can you tell us a little more about where you're from and how you started in commercial real estate and hospitality in particular?
No, I graduated from the University of Arizona, go Wildcats. I had a degree in finance and real estate. Upon graduation, I started work for a pretty large bank down here in Arizona, and I took whatever job that came to me at that time. When I graduated in 2011, the job market wasn't that great. Less than 50% of my class had some type of a job when they graduated college. So whatever came in my lap, I pretty much took. And it was a great experience. It wasn't something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Working for the bank, I learned a lot on the business side of things, lending side of things, operations, and management. I also had my real estate license while I was going to college at the age of 18, but never really used it. So I was kind of staying inactive at that time. So a good friend of mine, Dan, who was one of the partners and owners of NewGen Advisory and founders, approached me while I was an ambassador for him, working with the Asian American Hotel Owners Association. He said, "Hey, why don't you come work for me?" At that time, I was like, you know what, Dan, I don't know if I can, put much time into it. I don't know, what it's going to entail. I'm working full time. So, you know what, I took the opportunity and, started working for the bank and also started doing real estate at the same time simultaneously. Upon, the items that I learned from the bank in terms of management, operations, lending, and also working in the hotel since the age of 9 alongside with my parents, getting into the hospitality real estate field was pretty easy. Doing a few transactions myself for the family, and knew all the bits and pieces around it. So once I joined, I think I found my passion at that time, and it just went on from there. And then after that, I let the bank job go, and I was able to close my first deal within a few months of joining the firm. And ever since then, it's been history.
Nice. And King, a little bit. Could you expand a little bit about yours?
Sure. So as mentioned earlier, I am from the island of Grenada. And Grenada, one of the things people say about Grenada is that the people there are very friendly, and we have a great sense of hospitality. But when I started college, I was working at the Boone Tavern Hotel, because everyone at Berea College has to work at least 10 hours a week. So that's where I got my taste of hospitality. And so I continued that throughout college, grad school. And then after I graduated, started working at a Best Western hotel. But then 5 years into that, I got hired in at Best Western corporate office, and essentially did consulting and quality assurance for 20 years. And then when COVID hit, because I was doing a lot of international travel, at that time, my position was initially furloughed. And then after 6 months, it was determined that, we're not going to do that position the way that it had been done in the past. So then I started looking for other opportunities, started working with a hotel broker, learned the business while I was there, and then got my real estate license. And I figured at the time, with a real estate license, you can do any commercial or residential, but quickly discovered that at my heart, I am a hotel guy, I'm a hospitality guy, and residential was not my thing. So I went to the whole convention in Baltimore in 21. Or was that 22? No, 22. And met the NewGen team there, and mentioned to them that, hey, I would love to be able to sell hotels with you guys. They said, hey, when we get back to Phoenix, stop by, let's have a chat. And, joined in May of last year, and have been working with NewGen ever since. And it's a great position, a great opportunity for me, and I love it.
It's great to hear. I'm curious to know, who were some of your mentors along the way, and how did they shape your career paths, either earlier or later in your career? Jay, why don't we start with you?
Yeah. Some of the mentors, definitely, like I said, starting at a young age, working in hotels. My parents, for example, since I was a young child, they got me trained in all of the different areas of the hotel. I would come home from school and I would help them, off my off time, with the front desk, cleaning rooms, or even learning maintenance. So I was able to gain a lot of skills during my off time, after school, and during the weekends during my young years, which has helped me, tremendously along the way. Another mentor of mine, Dan Rama, a partner in NewGen again, took me under his wing when he was with the HOA. He saw my passion in hotels that I had at the age of 16 when I first met him. And, he brought me in as an ambassador. And after that, just saw what I was doing and got me into real estate, and finally guided a path that, I love doing. So those are a few mentors along the way that I've, definitely been able to accomplish.
And
so in my case, I would say one of my main mentors was my academic advisor at college. So he was the general manager of the Boone Tavern Hotel. And as we were talking about, what I need to be doing in college, and I was a business administration major, he said, King, given that you're from the Caribbean, I would strongly recommend that you specialize in hotel management. That way, if you ever go back to the island, or actually, he said, when you go back to the island, then you can find a great job in the hospitality business. And so I took that to heart, and got my degree in business administration, but specialized in hotel management. And I think it is there that I learned and developed a passion for hospitality, working at Boone Tavern Hotel in the restaurant and also at the front desk, and just learning more about hospitality. Then later on, when I started working for Best Western, a great mentor of mine was my boss for many, many years. His name is Bruce Weinberg, and we learned a lot together, and we helped develop in the international program for Best Western, and we had great successes together. And he taught me a lot, but we also worked side by side, and it was a great experience working together.
Excellent. Were there any lessons that you learned early on in your careers that helped course correct you, or let's call them favorite mistakes that were made that kind of help put you on the path?
Yeah, I definitely have learned a lot, especially during my college years. Everyone makes mistakes, and then you learn from that, right? The one thing that I characterize on, and I tell all the people that are in college and school and things nowadays, is do something that you're passionate about. I know, going to school, people want to become doctors, engineers, lawyers, they want to do these things, but find a good fit that you want to do, find something you're passionate about, and just go for it. I think that's going to take you, in a successful career. That's going to bring, something that you'll love doing on a day-to-day basis. And, look at me, I found my passion a little bit later than I really wish I could have, but it took me to greater heights, and I love what I do. I love a lot of my clients that, I've transacted hotels on. It's just not about selling hotels and whatnot. It's a lot of the transactions that I've done with my clients that have turned into family now, and just seeing their successes has been, rewarding. Just finding that passion and just, following it from an earlier start is what's going to be successful.
And I would say one great lesson I learned was make sure that you're clear about what others are expecting from you. And I had one situation when I was working at Best Western where I thought that the direction was that we need to get more input from our hoteliers on a particular subject matter. So I was leading a meeting, brought the topic up, and discussed certain things that maybe was not intended to be discussed in that particular way. And so, after my report was produced, it was, why did we bring that up with the members? And I thought, well, I thought that's what you wanted. But I think from that experience, I think I learned that, hey, you need to make sure that before you move out and launch out in any particular direction, that you are clear as to what is being expected of you, and not assume that that something is being expected, but make sure that you know what exactly is being expected.
Nice. And then what are some fundamental tenets of your work ethic that you maintain today? Do you have any daily habits or practices that have become essential to your career? And it could be commercial real estate related or otherwise, like meditation.
Yeah, for me, I'm more of a list guy, so, I plan out my, the next day, the day before, plan out my week, the week before, and I'm always, writing down lists or using sticky notes on my computer, say, hey, these are my to-do lists, and that's what I stay by and follow, because that's my end goal of things that I need to get done. The other thing for me is, I hate sitting around. I'm always grinding. I love staying busy. I love talking to people. So especially when it comes to like special events for people, birthdays, or if I'm, driving, on vacation with the family, and there's a, person that I know that I did a transaction with, or somebody that I know that owns a hotel, I usually maybe even stop by for about 5-10 minutes just to stop and say hello, say hi. A lot of my clients like that. I enjoy it. I just love meeting people, and whenever it's, people's important days on Facebook, or, when I get reminders, I always take, a couple minutes out throughout my day and just call them, whether it's, business related or not. It's just, keeping up and just doing follow-ups with my clients. And that's what I love, just checking in with them and just seeing how happy they are and where they are with, from, becoming a client to a good family friend now.
Nice.
For me, I would say being responsive, because, many times someone may send you an email, a text, or something like that, and you may think that it is, you can wait a couple hours to respond, but you never know what that person might be doing right now, or how important that information is to them right now. And so I try to respond to any request that I receive as soon as possible, so that, that information is out there. And I think that was one of the things that I learned from one of my mentors, that you want to respond as quickly as possible, so that your customer is not waiting on information from you. That you're never the bottleneck in the information flow.
Good advice. I know that especially in this industry, it's definitely something to be said for people that can get back to you quickly and efficiently and provide information to you in a timely manner. I've experienced that myself when I was on the brokerage side of the fence. It really does impress people when you're, right on the spot. So moving along onto our second topic, getting more into the nuts and bolts of our topic today, let's talk about all things hospitality. What are the 101 essentials of hospitality? And for those unfamiliar with the sector, what do operators or potential investors need to know about the industry from a day-to-day perspective?
Yeah, I mean, look, anybody can invest in a hotel, and there are plenty of ways of creating that opportunity, right? Buyers just need to understand the market that they're getting into. Some things that they need to look at are demand generators of the hotel. What types of business are brought in? Is it business? Is it leisure? Is it tourism? Is it corporate companies that are in the area, construction workers? What is it? There's also reports such as STR reports that buyers can easily gauge and tell if the property is performing or underperforming, and what can possibly be done to revamp that if it's underperforming. What are some ideas or additional amenities that can be offered in a hotel that can be turned around if a buyer was to get in place. Some of the other items is operational costs of running the hotel and the debt that's going to be needed to fund the project to get to the bottom line. Right now costs have been going up over the last few years, especially with payroll and utilities, and especially debt. Interest rates have been, constantly on the rise. So those are a lot of the, numbers that buyers will need to understand to make, is this investment going to be worth it? Is it going to pencil at this price? Those are some of the items that need to be considered. And definitely, what is their upside? What can be done differently? You walk into a hotel, there's a hotel for sale. You look at it, you look at the numbers, you look at the financials, but you're not going to understand it until you actually go visit the property, visit the market. Once you spend a night there or two and go around town and go visit around and talk to a few people, maybe you can create some upside. What can be done differently? Again, there's no right and wrong, but there's plenty of ways of creating that opportunity for buyers.
Excellent. So I think the answer depends on whether or not the person is getting into the business, one, as an owner operator or simply as an investor. Because as an owner operator, one of the fundamental things you have to keep in mind is that this is a business that is open 24/7, 365 days a year. So it will change your life. Even if you're not living on site, the possibility of being called in to deal with an emergency or a situation at odd hours of the night or any given day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, so that is something that if you're looking to get into the business that you need to understand that this is definitely a possibility. Now you can, of course, hire people to take care of some of those things for you. But even if you have a general manager, if there's a situation that happens with the general manager, then you as the owner may have to step in and take charge there. Now, if you're simply invested as an investor, you have to understand, I think, the cyclical nature of the business. That sometimes, even within the year, in some markets, the summertime is just high season, so you're going to be doing very well. But then in the wintertime, then you might be quite slow. And so you want to make sure that you are saving money and during the summertime to pay your mortgage or something, that during the wintertime, do not just spend it all as it is coming in. So just understanding those two key fundamentals, I think, is important for either the owner, operator, or the investor.
Thank you. Now, I take it the sector has evolved quite a bit over the last 5 to 10 years, especially after the pandemic. Can you talk a little bit about some of those shifts? Any key fundamental shifts? Who are staying in these hotels? I mean, we touched on that a little bit. And what are guest expectations and how have they changed?
Yeah, I mean, at some of our hotels where we're based at, we're after during COVID hit, now we're back to the norm, and we're getting many different types of clientele of people. We have a lot of base of people that are utilizing hotels, such as family travelers, business travelers. We're getting groups back now, and leisure travelers. But the guest expectations have come a long way, especially since COVID, especially in the world of technology. Right, guests are utilizing their phones a lot more than they used to. Hotels are not having these self-check-in kiosks where guests can just walk in without, greeting a front desk agent and just check in themselves using these virtual kiosks, get their room key, and they're on their way. For example, Hilton, Marriott, and some of these other brands, they've come out with RFID keys where you can check in, when you're a Bonvoy customer or Hilton Honors member, and check in online on your phone, and you'll get sent an RFID key. And you don't even need to go to the front desk. You can just take your cell phone, go straight to your room number, and then hold your phone up to the door, and the door's open. Guests just want a simple, clean stay. A lot of guests are also utilizing, there's AI, artificial intelligence, where there's chatbots now, where they're able to chat directly with the front desk if they need any housekeeping service or linens, or if they're having issues with their rooms, without, getting out of the bed and coming, to the front office. These guests are able to do all these things, the comfort of their bed, especially in infotainment, TVs, in the guest rooms. A lot of the brands are moving towards, things such as offering Netflix, Hulu. People can bring in their own devices and cast on their phone and watch TVs. So there's a lot of technology components that hotels have been needing to adapt to and are adapting to, for the future.
No, I think along the same lines with technology, even though many hotels are adopting new technology, I think from the guest perspective, they still appreciate the human touch. So they do not want to have a stay where they have zero interaction. But if they need to interact with a human, then they want to make sure that they're not having to wait in long lines to get to an individual, simply because a hotel has adopted so much technology and the staff, the head count is so low now that the guests have to wait long times in lines to get simple questions answered. So this is still a hospitality business, and while technology may be able to help facilitate it, I think as an owner operator, we need to keep in mind that the guest still expects a human interaction and a human touch. And so we have to make sure that we have that right balance between technology as well as what the guest is expecting. Now, in some cases, in many hotels, have opted to make like housekeeping optional, but some guests, they still want their rooms clean every day. And so we want to make sure that if a guest wants that option, and that they can get it without having to jump through many hoops in order to request it or to have that expectation met.
How has hospitality competed with upstarts like Airbnb, VRBO? What changes have occurred as a result of those entering the space, or have there been any changes?
Yeah, look, and I'll agree with King on this as well too. Especially with the hotels, I am seeing a lot of guests that kind of went away from using hotels and gone towards Airbnb when Airbnb, VRBO, HomeAway, and those websites came out. And a lot of these same guests that we used to have that come into our hotels are coming back to the properties now and getting away from Airbnb and HomeAway and VRBO because of having a staff on site. Yes, with the technology point and things being there, there's been a lot of issues that I've been hearing from guests stating that, hey, if there's ever issues with, some of the rentals that they have, there's no 24/7 support. There's no, long wait times on the phone, or it's hard to get a hold of the owner after hours if there's any issues going on. With the hotel, whether it's utilizing the technology aspect of it or walking up to the front desk, their needs are taken care of right away. Secondly, a guest knows exactly what kind of service, what kind of room, what kind of amenities that they're going to be getting by staying at a hotel versus staying at different Airbnbs, because not all of them are all the same. if a guest is a dedicated brand loyal customer to brand A, they know that they're going to get that level of service, level of room, and everything from wherever they go, throughout city to city. The other thing that I've been, conversational with guests is Airbnbs have, increased their payments on security cleaning fees now. And, sometimes they're able to get cheaper stays, but with their security cleaning fees and other additional fees added in, it turns out to be a lot more than hotels now. So I think we're definitely, able to compete a lot better, even though they're also, being featured on a lot of these OTA websites that we are on, for example, booking.com and Expedia, where they're, housing Airbnb and houses and stuff along with hotels. But guests are, realizing, what the differences are and what their kind of level of service that they're definitely going to be getting.
Another piece there, especially if the guest is someone who is looking for maybe a full service type experience, where they can just get up in the morning, go downstairs and have breakfast, or, have lunch or dinner, or go to the bar, and with many VRBOs or Airbnb, you do everything yourself. So if you're booking that as your vacation, you may ask yourself, wait a minute, that's the same thing I do at home. I need a break. I don't want to have to do dishes. I don't want to have to cook and figure out those kinds of things like that. Whereas you can have the convenience of those things and those services right there at a hotel if you're staying at a hotel that offers those services. So I think the human interaction and having staff available to take care of your needs is a great plus for the hotels. And so hotels should definitely not be looking to use that as their sole means of reducing their costs. Because if there's no difference between the hotel experience and Airbnb or VRBO, then guests may not feel the need to stay at the hotel. They may just continue to seek out, the experiences at the Airbnb.
It sounds like the hospitality aspect of hotels is really what's kind of coming back. I mean, I can speak from personal experience. I did the exact same thing when Airbnb first started popping up. It definitely was attractive, of being able to have what may seem like a larger space for comparable pricing. But after a while, I started missing, having somebody clean my room for me and, making the bed and changing the sheets and having fresh towels and all that stuff. And I think another thing that may play into this as well is, as regulation has made its way into Airbnb and VRBO, inevitably it's become more expensive for those operators to operate, and they've had to pass, those expenses on to the travelers as well. So, you really do start to kind of stack and compare. Okay, what do I get for what I'm paying for in each scenario? And it seems like the hotel experience is really just kind of outweighing the amenities and the benefits that you get over, staying at an Airbnb. And then something else that you mentioned, Jay, that I think really nails it is, the consistency of experience that you get from a hotel versus, somebody's house, somebody's place. You don't exactly know, if is their washer a clean washer. I once stayed at an Airbnb where the clothes came out of the washer dirtier than they went in. Like, what's going on here? But I think you hit on some really important points to consider. Now, King, speaking to the franchise side of hotel operations and your experience there, how does hotel franchising work, and what do potential investors need to know about franchises?
Okay, well, great. So I guess the franchise system or the franchise model allows an investor to invest in a real estate or in a business where they know what they can get, and there's a level of consistency in there, and where whether it is a Days Inn or a Choice branded hotel, that they know that guests who are booking their particular hotel would have a level of expectation, because that is what the brand has committed to. So when someone is looking online and they're saying, okay, I'm going to this city, if they're loyal to that brand, then that guest knows what that brand has to offer. And so that is attractive to many guests because, as we were talking about just recently here, about the inconsistencies of the Airbnb experience. And so by having the franchise and the brand, it gives you that consistency, and then you know exactly what you're going to be getting. The other thing is that the brands have a commitment to the franchisees that they are going to be marketing the hotels on the owner's behalf. Now, again, we shouldn't make that the only form of marketing that is being done, but as the owner, you need to market your hotel the way that is appropriate for your location. Now, there are two different types of franchises. You have some of them where they are very strict on their standards, meaning that if on breakfast it said that you have to have three breads like this, and this, that's the only type of breads you can have. There are other types where they say you need to have at least three breads. So if you wanted to have five, then that's okay. So then it gives you the option of being able to customize your breakfast and your experience to meet that guest need of the market where you are located. And so that's one of the things to keep in mind, whether you're looking at a franchise that is just one set of standards, fixed standards, or where they have minimum standards and give you the opportunity to customize your offering for your market.
Are there any drawbacks to going the franchise route? What would an entity need to consider if they decide to go the franchise route?
I would say a drawback is that the franchise basically tells you what the expectations are. They create guardrails around what is expected. So, you cannot just go out and do whatever you want to do. And you have certain parameters that you have to stick within. And then also, some might see as a drawback that a certain percentage of the income that you're generating from your business has to be paid as royalty fees to the franchisor. So those are two things that you have to keep in mind. But again, unless you're buying or investing in a hotel that is already well known in the marketplace, you may need to work with a franchisor so that guests have that confidence that they can book your hotel and know exactly what they're getting.
Okay. Now, shifting gears a little bit, now that we understand a little bit more about what makes the hospitality's different aspects attractive as an investment, let's talk about the actual hospitality market today. Can you provide us with a 30,000-foot overview of the hospitality market, especially amid current macroeconomic trends such as inflation's impact, interest rates, labor shortages, consumer spending, et cetera? Let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing in today's market.
Yeah, transactions are still happening. Even in this current economic climate that we're in, there's still a lot of plenty of lenders out there that are still lending in the hospitality space. Rates, like I said earlier, they're constantly on the rise, but buyers and sellers are starting to factor that into the pricing of the sales. They're starting to factor that into operational costs for a buyer, what it's gonna take to make money at the end of the year, by paying this type of or taking this type of a debt on. And labor has come back in a lot of markets, and there's plenty of people looking for jobs. During the pandemic, labor was a big issue for following post COVID for another 2 years, and a lot of that can be resulted in a lot of government funding that has dried up now, forcing people to go back to work. And in terms of inflation, prices of hotel rates have gone up in all the markets, and the reason being that is to offset, the higher utility costs, higher taxes, higher payrolls that we as operators are facing. Even in this year, we have had a lot of phone calls from a lot more buyers than there's inventory on the market. There's plenty of buyers out there, all the way from 1031 exchange buyers that are looking for properties to multifamily buyers that want to convert hotels into multifamily for affordable housing or low income housing. There's new mom and pop little motel buyers that are out there that wanting to convert some of these older class assets, 20 room, 30 room hotels to little independent boutique properties in some locations. Those are the visionary buyers. And You know, there's still a lot of 1031s and conversions happening. Government entities picking up a lot of hotels that can be used for transitional housing or homeless housing or housing for asylum immigrants as well. These are some of the examples that some of the transactions that we've done. So the hospitality space, has come a long way, and now we're just seeing a lot of different types of uses that are being utilized in terms of hotels. Older hotels are being revitalized, redeveloped, and all sorts of buyers are still tapping into the hospitality market.
And one of the things that I have seen is that we have a number of brands that have launched initiatives to try to increase the diversity in the hotel ownership space. And so what that means is that now we are seeing a lot of new buyers, people who are not first-time buyers into hospitality, and that are now in the market looking for hotels. Now, and in many cases, because it's a new industry for them, and they are very successful in other industries, but there is a bit of education that is needed with those buyers to understand the difference between the hospitality business and other businesses that they have been working in. Yeah, and so this gives us a great opportunity to help educate those new buyers, but it also helps us to creates a market for new property, because oftentimes as a first-time buyer, they're not going to be looking at the high $10, $20 million purchases. And we want to make sure that they understand the business and buy an asset that can produce for them and provide a return that makes it a successful investment in the hospitality space.
Now, do you see any difference in hotel performance across markets, Class A versus Class B or other variables, and what are they?
That's an interesting question, and I would say yes. And some of the things that we've seen, let's take, for example, your 2020 COVID year. A lot of markets were closing up. Some states had, minimum occupancy or maximum occupancy rights where they had to say, hotels can only rent X amount of rooms, or, interior quarter hotels had to rent rooms, every other room or something like that. And all these rules and regulations came out across the board in different markets. Here in Arizona, with the desert world that we live in, we got hit with COVID, but it wasn't as bad as a lot of the other markets. And we saw a lot of travelers come from California and other states come out here and come golfing or do tourist attractions or go hiking and biking and things like that. So for us, when COVID hit, it wasn't too bad for us. We were down for a couple months and we picked right back up again. And then post-COVID, some of the larger markets, like now, for example, like this year, I've been talking to a lot of my clients that own properties in on beach cities like in Virginia, and tourist attractions like Disneyland, for example, where summertime's a peak season for them, where they're sold out. And this year it's not a norm. They're running into low occupancy. Travelers aren't going as much anymore. They still have rooms available. People are fighting for rate in some of those markets. And a lot of that maybe have to do with inflation. People are maybe, thinking about, spending money. Who knows? But there's definitely a lot of different variables that have been happening, since COVID and post-COVID now, in different markets as well.
Yeah, and I think it has always been that, depending on the location of the property, it could greatly impact, the level of business. Now, one of the things that I think we see with the work from home situation, where many of the commercial office buildings may be under occupied right now, and that a lot of the hotels that depended heavily on that segment of the business, like the business traveler coming in, that they may have seen some impact because maybe they were doing more Zoom meetings and not as much people traveling, or maybe when they travel, they're not doing as frequent trips, but maybe they might spend longer, do more on a single trip. So I think some of those businesses might have seen an impact. But, one of the fundamentals of this particular business and industry is location, location, location. So for a new person investing in this business, they want to make sure that they're looking for a property in a location that has good and multiple demand generators, that if one sector takes a slip, that they can pick up in another. So let's say if the business traveler goes down, then there are other leisure activities that they can rely on to fill their hotels.
Now, how has transaction velocity shifted in the last few years? Are we seeing more deals get done, fewer deals get done? Do you see deals getting done if we see some stagnancy in occupancy?
Yeah, I feel like deals are still happening. Deals are still being done. Especially this year, buyers and lenders are definitely looking at upside. Especially when it comes to getting debt for purchasing hotels. A lot of the lenders that I've been working with over the last few years, have reached out to me, last year and this year and said, "Hey, Jay, we're maxed out on our hospitality bucket. We're not going to be able to do hotel loans for the next year or year and a half at least." So, I had to go out and find more lenders that can get into, that can do conventional lending or that can do United States, Department of Agriculture lending if the hotel falls in that specific area, or find other creative ways of getting deals done, whether it's, owner financing or maybe even lease to purchase options. A lot of the banks, that we have relationships with, are asking more than the typical 15% down payment that a lot of deals were being transacted upon in the previous years. Now they're looking at, 20, 25% down. They're looking at possibly cross collateralizing a lot of deals. If a buyer has multiple hotels, they may, not only take the hotel that they're purchasing as a lien and maybe take another one that they may have. And, a lot of lenders are also looking at, the buyer's experience. They're looking at their resumes, they're looking at their, business plans, their proposals, their projections, who they are as an individual before they're lending on it. And this year, it's been interesting. I'm having, the VP and presidents of some of these, banks go out and visit the property themselves, stay the night, look at the town, and then, give the okay back to the board saying that, hey, I feel comfortable lending on this asset. Right. So a lot of deals that we're doing, is taking a little bit more hand holding this year, but, we're also having a lot of our deals pre-approved with local banks as well to make sure that, hey, there's definitely financing available to qualified buyers if there is. So those are some of the things that I've seen change in the hospitality field.
Yeah, and in my experience, I am also seeing that more buyers are either asking for seller financing, and they are looking, because they understand that many of the banks have that higher threshold for down payment or collateral that might be needed, and so they're looking for more seller financing opportunities. So what that signals is that if there are sellers out there who are already wanting to or needing to sell, if they have the opportunity to offer seller financing, and oftentimes it could be for as short as 2 years, sometimes 5 years at the most, and because the buyers are trying to say, hey, we want to be able to run this property for a while so we can show to the lender that we are been the one operating the property and that they can trust our numbers, that we would be able to keep this property going because we've had 2 to 5 years of experience working at this property and have been making good on all of our debt service thus far. From the buyer's perspective, though, one thing that because of the higher collateral that is needed, we may need to see more partnerships and joint ventures, meaning that maybe you have a friend or a neighbor or somebody who who's also wanted to either get into the hotel business or maybe wanted to buy another hotel. And for the next couple of years, it may be helpful to maybe form an LLC with that individual or individuals and then go in together to buy the property. So because it's important to have control of the asset first, even though conditions may not be perfect for you to acquire it yourself, but having ownership of the asset in some way or another is very important. And the sooner you can do that, and the better that you would be able to ride the wave.
Got it. And I know we touched on this a little bit, Jay, but how will technological advances such as AI, different innovations shape the future of the hospitality sector?
Yeah, I mean, AI, it's new, and a lot of the hotels and brands and hotel operation companies are picking this you know artificial intelligence topic up. And some of the brands, what they're doing, and some of these online travel agencies, they're doing dynamic rate changing. When consumers are looking at hotels, the rates are automatically changing. Marketing of hotels, when guests are looking and surfing the web online, artificial intelligence is being used on what they're looking for, what guests are looking for, and a lot of this data is being presented back to a lot of the brands, or even these marketing companies, where they're able to take it back to hotel ownership, and let them know that, hey, these are the items that a lot of guests are looking for, and these are some of the changes that we shall make, right? So definitely AI is going to be a big thing, especially with chat boxes as well too. I think that's going to take the next step in the hotel industry for sure.
No, and I so there's of course there are some jobs maybe at the corporate level that can be enhanced by AI, and maybe even at some of the local level, maybe like running your night audit reports and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, this business is truly a people business, because I have not seen any type of AI applications as yet that would go out, that is able to go out there, clean the room, and that
Right.
is still a human interaction and that is needed. But as operators, yes, we want to find and use the AI components that can take care of some of the more routine and mundane tasks, so we can free up the individual so that they can have that personal interaction with the guests and not worrying about all of the things that can be done um, through automation, or that maybe could be eliminated and be done at some point later in the life cycle of the guest stay.
And then finally, what are your primary considerations when advising hospitality clients through current economic times? What are the long-term upsides? What are the current obstacles? And then any words of advice, generally speaking, for players in the space?
Yeah, I think I touched on this a little bit earlier. For current hospitality clients right now, just having a clean paperwork, right? Making sure that their property management system reports match with their profit and loss statements, and that matches with their bank account statements. Um, you know, Also the lending part of it, right? That I visited on earlier. Things are just getting a little bit more harder to get financing done, but it can still be done as long as you're qualified. Having a clean slate of paperwork on your hand, making sure your business plans are in place, your projections are in line with the market, and making sure you're running a clean, operable hotel. Making sure it's presentable to whoever walks into the door, whether it's a guest or whether it's a banker or whoever it may be, or whenever you're even trying to sell the hotel. Making sure it's presentable, and also keeping up with pips, right? During COVID, a lot of brands kind of backed away and didn't visit the hotels, and a lot of pips were ignored, and they said, you know what, during COVID we'll let you get away with these things. But since then, a lot of brands have been coming down and coming visiting the property. So making sure that the reviews are there, guests are happy, things for the guests are being taken care of, guests responses are being answered to, and just making sure you have a clean, presentable property from a day-to-day aspect.
Another thing I think that many hotel investors, owners, operators need to be mindful of. If you listen to the news, the media, there is a lot of talk about, not inflation, but also recession. However, those are terms that you've been hearing a lot about even since 2020. That next quarter is going to be a recession, or next year is going to be a recession. And so sometimes I think people might react to that kind of news, and maybe and either cut back in areas or do things that may be impacting the guest experience. We have to keep in mind that our main focus is to take care of the guests. You take care of the guests today, and you have the things in place that will continue to take care of the guests. And the business, in a sense, will take care of itself. So do not, out of fear, start cutting services and cutting your expenses at the expense of the guest experience. Because as Jigar mentioned, if the guests are not getting the experience that they have, their reviews are going to reflect it, and then other guests are not going to be coming to your hotel. And so you kind of create, in a sense, a self-fulfilling prophecy of a recession or a reduction in business because you did things that kind of created the conditions that will have that effect on your business. So focus on taking care of the guests. Yes, there are things that your cost might be slightly higher, but if you invest in the guest experience, then it will pay itself off in the long run.
Great advice. Now, moving along to our fourth topic, given your backgrounds and expertise, I'm sure our listeners are curious about what your answers would be to a few rapid fire questions and some words of advice questions. Are you ready?
Sure.
Shoot.
All right.
Go.
So if you were given $50 million today and had to invest it immediately, what would be your go-to asset type, location, and why?
$50 million. All right. This is what I would do. I diversify. I wouldn't buy just one hotel. I diversify and put it into all different classes of hotels across different markets, such as purchasing a few extended stay properties from anywhere from economy extended stays to some higher brand extended stay products. I'd purchase, invest into a couple economy brands such as Independent Boutique and a couple of the higher brands as well. Locations would depend anywhere from college university towns to larger metro cities that have a lot more than a few demand generators and possibly downtown districts. So that would be my good mix of hotels that I would buy with $50 million. Like I said, I'm passionate about the hotel industry. I own hotels myself. I have a couple economy properties and my next play, I believe in the extended stay market. I definitely diversify. A lot of the things, the reason I say diversification is some of these institutional clients that we have, they only focused on the top tier brands, IHG, Hilton, Marriott. When COVID hit, those were the properties that struggled the most. The economy brands and extended stay market didn't struggle as much. And a lot of these institutional buyers came back to us, and said, hey, find us some, lower brand economy products that, are cash flowing, or some extended stay products that are, pretty much full in occupancy, right? So I think that was a good learning lesson during the year of COVID, and a lot of guys that started diversifying have been very successful, and that's something that I would do with $50 million now.
So my answer is very similar to Jay's, in that investing in the hotel business and primarily in the economy space because of the lower operating cost percentage. And so you usually have a better return on your investment. But I think I will also use some of that money to lend to other individuals looking to get into the hotel business because, even if you lend at prime rate right now, that's a nice 8.25%, maybe soon 8.5% return on your money. And then that actually helps to further diversify your risk. But some of that money would also be invested in international locations because I love to travel. As we mentioned, I have worked with hoteliers across 80 countries, but personally I've traveled to 99 countries. And so I would love to have a couple properties, one in Thailand, maybe one at home in Grenada, so that I can, have places to visit and reasons to visit there to look after my businesses.
Excellent. Okay, I got to ask, King, what's going to be the 100th country you visit? At one point in time, I was trying to be very picky and trying to determine, that maybe Colombia, maybe Brazil. But at this point in time, it would just be nice to say that I have been to 100 countries. So anyone that I have not been to would be a welcome addition because it's been since 2019 since I visited my 99th country, which was Peru. So, I'm open. You're open. All right. You just want to hit that 100 mark.
Yes.
All right. Favorite tool or software that you're using on the job? And I promise this is not a trick question.
I gotta say my cell phone. I'm always on the go, and that's my favorite tool that I can't live without on a day-to-day basis. For me, my phone is everything. Look, it's communication, whether it's text, email, phone, reminders, my list, everything. And like King said earlier, just being responsive, right? Just having my phone on me, middle of the night or weekends. We're always working. We as real estate agents. So just being responsive to our clients, whether it's a quick text, email, or whatever, we can do that from the go with our phone. And that would be my favorite tool.
Right. And I actually agree with Jay on that one. But also, it is important to have access to data, and also to take a look at what else is available out there. And not because this is a Crexi podcast, but I use the Crexi website to find out what other properties out there are available, so that I can help my clients identify properties that they might be interested in, and help them to see if that property might be a good fit for their investment needs.
All right. And finally, what is the most common misconception about your job or industry?
Most common misconception. I love this. Everyone thinks what we do is very easy and we make a ton of money. So look, we work on a lot of deals simultaneously, and deals take time, right? And some of the deals that we work on and transactions that we work on take maybe even over a year, and anything can go wrong in the middle, where buyers back out last minute, or appraisals may come in low, or lenders may even back out at the end. Markets change, debt can change. Over the last year, interest rates have gone. We were in the beginning of last year. We were doing deals at 3-4% interest rates, and now they're 9s and 10s easy. So it's just bridging the balance between buyer and seller to get the deals across that makes sense for both parties. Sellers want the highest dollar amount and buyers want the best deals, but we just need to balance that gap where both walk away happy and make money and are successful. That's the main thing about our job and industry. It's hand holding and trying to get these deals across the finish line to make all parties completely happy with what we've done. And along the way, anything can happen. Where we spend 6, 8 months, 9 months, a year, and a deal's gone south, or people have backed out, and what you just can't stop. You just got to start all over again. And that's what's great. That's when you push yourself and you just keep going. You don't stop.
Exactly. And I think sometimes you have some buyers, especially maybe new buyers, who have the misconception that, why do I need a broker? Why do I need an agent? I can find hotels. I can log on, and I think I understand this business enough. And so they may have the misconception that they can do it themselves. Or even in some cases, as a buyer, they may think, oh, well, why am I going to pay someone else, to do this work for me? And so they might not understand that in most cases, the seller is the one who often pays the commission. And so it is best to have someone who is working on your interests, and someone who can go essentially to bat for you to make sure that you're getting the best deal on that particular transaction. And so do not try to cut your broker or your agent out of the transaction or out of the deal, because we are here to make sure that your interest is protected, and we are not here just for a commission.
Excellent. Well, Jigar, King, thank you so much for sharing your insights. I know you're very busy, and we appreciate you spending time with us and educating us and our audience on the hospitality market. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch? Email, social media?
Yeah, we're available. NewGen Advisory, email, social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and then we also have our NewGen database as well too, which clients can subscribe to as well.
Yeah, exactly. So again, newgenadv.com, or you can, for me personally, my email is kjeremiah@newgenadv.com, or you can always give me a call or text at 602-405-2082.
Love it.
And I can be reached at 520-664-4091. And my email is kind of long. It's Jigar, Jigar Desai, DESAI, at newgenadv.com.
Well, thank you both, and thanks to everyone that tuned in today. If you enjoyed this episode, do not miss the next one. Visit go.crexi.com/podcast and sign up to get the next episode delivered straight to your inbox. Of course, you can also subscribe to the Crexi Podcast on your favorite podcast app and check out our YouTube channel for video recordings of each episode. Take care, and be sure to tune in next time.